Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose.
And I'm your producer, Brittany.
And here at Finding Arizona Podcast, we collect the local stories of all entrepreneurs and from around the valley. So join us at findingarizonapodcast.com, where you can hear every episode and see it as well at
YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next on our show. And when you're ready to start your podcast, you found the right spot. Found House, your next podcast production company.
Now, let's get back to the show. Score big with SeatGeek. Whether it's concerts, sports, or live events, SeatGeek has you covered. Use code FindingArizona to get a fantastic $20 discount on your SeatGeek tickets. Catch your favorite live events hassle-free with extra savings. Visit SeatGeek.com and make every experience unforgettable. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jose, and thank you so much for joining us and wanting to share more with all the people who've come through our doors. Today, like no other, we bring in very special guests every week, and I'd love to introduce Beth McRae, and she's going to help us understand a little bit of her business, which is the McRae Agency. Thank you again, Beth, for coming in.
And thank you for having me.
So I'm going to ask you the question that we typically ask everyone and that comes in through our doors is, give us a little bit of your origin story and how this all came to be.
So I just want to mention two things. Yes, I do run the McRae Agency, which I started in 1995, but I also own a women's high-end consignment and resale store in Scottsdale.
Yes.
So I'm running two businesses. I'm feeding two babies.
Absolutely. As one should always promoting your everything that you do. I love that. Thank you so much for it. What's the name again? The
boutique is called High Society Resale Boutique, and it's at Scottsdale and Shea, northwest corner, but also the website is highsocietyresale.com, and people can buy online if they're not here local.
Yes.
But that's actually a newer business that I took on. But my origin story about the McRae Agency, and it's funny because these are two very different businesses. One's retail, one's, service oriented.
Yes.
I came up through the ranks of McCann, which is the largest agency in the world. And I was working in their San Diego office for many, many years on big brand names like Tiffany and Company and WD-40, if you can believe that.
That's awesome.
I know. When I started doing PR on that WD-40 account, I didn't even know what WD-40 was. And then
you got a firsthand look behind the craziness that goes into those little bottles.
That's right. And I realized you can use it for so many things. So it's a super cool experience. And then about 5 years later is when I decided to go out on my own and start my PR firm. And one of the reasons I started it was because as much as I love my experience and my time at McCann, what I realized is that, if they were meeting a new client, they'd bring out all the vice presidents, the head of the agency, all the big people. And then I, as a junior level person, would be doing all the work, and they'd never see any of those other people again. Yeah. And so I call that bait and switch. And so when I started my agency, I decided I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to be involved in every single client because they deserve this, which I am definitely now the senior most person. And they deserve to have the owner of the agency involved in their business. Yeah. So that was a super important thing to me to be able to offer that because, I don't think it's fair for like an owner to just come in and, pitch the business or whatever, and then just disappear and let the junior level people do everything. So I created my own model, which was different than that. And I promised every client, and I have ever since, that I'm going to be involved in your business. I'm not just going to disappear and let the rest of the team handle everything. Yeah. So that is definitely something that sets us apart. And I love having the relationship with the clients and being able to provide strategic thoughts and, help them really meet their objectives where they see ROI out of the PR campaigns that we do. And of course, as time went along, we became one of the early pioneers in social media, back in like 2005, where, we really just had LinkedIn and the other things like Facebook were just starting. So it was like the wild, wild west. Anything could go, with social media, and you were able to really grow stuff organically without having to pay like we do today, where we're boosting posts and sponsoring and doing all that kind of stuff. So that was a very cool time to experience and to be part of the very early days of social media. So of course, that is something that we handle for almost all of our clients, because it actually, when you think about it, public relations with the public, if you break it down like that. And what we do as PR experts, first of all, we're all trained journalists. So we know exactly how to write like a journalist and what journalists are looking for in stories and that sort of thing. And it really makes sense for PR people to be doing social media for clients, because we take those messages and we, chunk them out. And then use those for social media. So then you have this like beautiful overarching campaign where all the messages across the board are consistent with the brand. And, we write blogs and we, do all kinds of other things for our clients that help them to be known, liked, and trusted. And that's what we really actually sell, is trust. Because that's what the brands need in order to sell and grow. I mean, they need to be trusted. They need credibility. And that's one of the things that the news media can provide. So when we work to get articles placed on our clients, most people probably don't know there's like a PR person behind the scenes. And so they think, wow, if USA Today is writing about this particular company or product, well, it must be good because it's the implied third-party endorsement of the media. And so that's hugely powerful. So even though there's all kinds of things out there under the sun, a big reason that clients hire us is they want that exposure.
Yes.
And then once we get a story placed somewhere, that's another fabulous, we're content creators at the end of the day. And when you get a good story in place, that you start chunking it out, and that becomes social media posts, and you turn it into a blog, and you put it on the news section on the client's website so that people can see what's being said about them. So that is kind of the origin story of my life and my work in PR, but it's also the origin story of public relations. And, a little known fact, the reason that we eat eggs and bacon and all that stuff for breakfast is because of a very clever PR person back in the 1920s who worked for the pork industry. And they decided, we're going to make this thing about bacon being, part of this healthy breakfast. You're getting the protein, all that stuff. So we have a PR person to thank for designing our American breakfast, if you will. So it's really fascinating.
A lot of our culture, if you look at the history of it, comes from that ideals of a PR person trying to highlight something so that the general public will be able to not only take advantage of what it's entailing, but also to understand it on a kind of fundamental scale. It's really quite beautiful. I look back at a lot of things and I'm like, oh, it's like, jingles all the way to even the most, some people, like, I'm a graphic person, so like graphic fonts, some of that comes from just handwritten typography that individual PRs are campaigning for. Large movie posters come from that idea too, of like, how do we generate a picture that someone can conceptualize what it's about? And so I really enjoy those historical moments of like pivotal understanding of your job, your career, what you if you can understand where it comes from, you can try and, affiliate yourself into that realm of like, I appreciate this and I want to continue that forward. So I really do respect and appreciate you giving us a little bit of that history. One of the things I also would like to understand is your history to Arizona. I was doing a little bit of research, and something came across one of your interviews is you were selling rocks in front of the Humane Society?
No, actually, this is a funny story. My sister and I loved animals so much, and my parents were great about letting us kind of have whatever we wanted. It could be, guinea pigs or hermit crabs or, cats and dogs and all that stuff. And so my sister and I decided to take those river rocks and paint them. And of course, I was like 8 years old, so it wasn't great artistic endeavor, but we set a table up outside my parents' house and we sold those rocks for 25 cents each.
Oh,
and then we
cute.
gave the money to the Humane Society, and then we started having carnivals in our backyard and dog shows and things like that. And it was all about raising money for the Humane Society because we loved it so much. So that's an example of my early days in fundraising, which is another thing I love to do, even though it's not necessary. It's not paid. It's more of a volunteer thing.
Yeah.
Volunteerism is really important to me. And I've been lucky enough to be on the ground floor of some amazing things like the Humane Society's Compassion with Fashion Luncheon, which my mom and my sister and I founded in 1998. And now that lunch raises over $2 million, which is awesome. It's crazy. Yeah. I didn't do that when we first started. It was like $50,000 and a few hundred people.
But still, like the idea of that something comes from somewhere, and the fact that I get to hear it from the person who lived it is so beautiful and so wonderful to see in person and hear in person. Because to me, for my own history, from my own childhood, it's like I'm still living it. I'm still kind of like, kind of in the moment. But when I take the moment to appreciate those little significant things in my life, I really do like look at it as a scene in a movie or a scene in, something that I read. And I think it's totally fun to kind of appreciate those little things that pop up that you really don't get a chance to like speak about a lot of the times. And it's just something that is just internally yours, but it has made a pivotal effect in our society, in our culture, in our community. So that hearing it from you, it's just like, it's incredible. So I will kind of say thank you to that. And how did you go from here to San Diego? That seems really an interesting story to me. It's like, because you go from this kind of community to where my wife grew up. Actually, she grew up in Imperial Beach, just south near the border. And so I really, when I hear someone came, and went to San Diego and did stuff there, it really, piques my interest because I want to hear from my wife, like, she's kind of like, oh, I went to school here and there. And it's just like, I went and did college up in SLO, and then I came to Arizona. I've already heard that. I want to hear someone else's perspective.
So I went to school in Texas Christian University, because my family origin is Midland, Texas. So I thought, check out Texas for a little bit. Yeah. But I did grow up here, so I'm a native. And then when I got here, after college, I started doing some internships. And one of them led to a job offer in San Diego at McCann. Nice. So that's what did it. I said, all right, I'm going to San Diego.
That's incredible.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I was there 10 years. It was amazing. And that's where I started my PR firm.
Oh,
and
nice.
Then I ended up going up to San Francisco during the .com boom and opening an office there.
What a pivotal moment in life.
It was crazy, but there was a shortage of PR people in the Bay Area. And a former intern of mine, who's now the head of Google Ventures, called me and said, "You got to get up here to San Francisco because we are short on PR people, and it's just exploding, the .com thing." And then it imploded.
Yeah, it's a bubble. It happens.
It did. And so after it imploded, I ended up deciding to come back here and just move my office to Scottsdale and kind of phase out San Francisco, and then ultimately phase out my office in San Diego because I could do it all from here with technology the way it is. And I love being back. This is a place that has changed so radically when I left in '89.
That was going to be my next question, actually, because now we're talking about history and we're talking about development. And what you've seen and experienced in your timeline is just this level of like growth from different angles of like going from Texas, going to San Diego, seeing the tech boom in San Francisco. Yeah. And now you're here. I want to say the next really big star of the US is just this state in general. And how much this place, not only the city, but this place where you have sub-cities like Avondale, like Gilbert, like Chandler, you have a growth that's almost just like, it's just boom, 10x over the last decade and more. So I want to hear from your perspective of what about this place has changed, or what about it hasn't changed that you love so much?
So here's how it hasn't changed. It's a big city, but it's a small town.
Yes,
it really is. And, it's amazing, how much of a small town feel I can still get just from all the people in my circles. I attend a lot of charity events and mention I'm a volunteer and so forth. And, I see a lot of the same people over and over again, which is amazing because they're supporting our nonprofits. And that's a really fantastic thing. And I encourage everyone to volunteer and support our nonprofits. One of the recent ways it's changed, as we all know, is we have what I like to call the California refugees. And those are the people that are just like, oh my gosh, California is kind of a mess in a way. And it has
a lot of things going. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
I hope they straighten it out because it's such a beautiful state. But we've had such an influx of people deciding to move to Arizona for various reasons and leaving California in particular. So that does change our culture. That does change our politics. It changes the real estate prices because these are people that can leave California, sell a house for a few million because that's the real estate market there. And then they can come in here and buy something really fantastic with their money. So I believe it's really also driven up real estate prices, especially on the luxury properties, because they're taking California money and spending it in Arizona and they get so much more for their money here.
You also hit something else on the head with the real estate aspect is what we've particularly have developed or at least grown out of is the snowbird lifestyle, where you had Midwestern families come in and out of the state and in the city, and that kind of habit of like an influx of individuals during the winter months and a decrease of population during the summer months. And now it's become more of just this very steadily growing population that continues to live and thrive here.
That's right. We have a year-round community. It's not just everybody's gone in the summer, so it's going to be dead. No, I mean, people have to work. They can't just afford to take off for the entire summer. I mean, yes, the wealthy snowbirds, if this is a second home for them or what have you, they'll go back to, cooler climates.
But that fluctuation is now diminished into more of a steadily population.
You're right. We are a year-round place. So I mean, I work here all summer because you know what? If my clients are working, I'm working.
Yep.
They're
I
not
love
taking the
that.
summers off.
Yep.
So yeah, I have to, in fact, if I do take a vacation or something, I always have my laptop. I'm working. There's usually something that happens where a client lets me know, oh, we've been acquired by a big company. We need you to write a news release pronto.
Yep.
So even when I was in the Galapagos Islands on a National Geographic, boat, tour and all of that, seeing all the islands, that actually did happen where I had a client say, oh, yeah, but I mean, you know what? It's okay. I was in my cabin on the boat. I was banging out the news release and I was like, you know what? I'm here for you. I'm always available to my clients pretty much 24/7 because if they need me, I'm responsive. I'm there. Our team is there. And I think that's another really important aspect, especially of the PR agency, is that you are responsive to your clients and you get the job done. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. You get the job done for them and they know that. And that's why one of our clients we've had since 1996. And
that's incredible.
It's unusual to have a relationship that long, but it's one that works. And we're always bringing the fresh ideas to the table and they know they can count on us in any kind of a pinch or urgent situation. They know we're going to do it. We're going to get the job done.
So now I kind of lean on, and since we're talking about, the relationship aspect and just kind of overall your team, I would love to understand, as you've grown in this city and seen it kind of develop into this metropolis, what excites you about, because in particular, so my primary job is a landscape architect. So I get to see communities develop and grow and see what's coming out as new. And so I get excited about that, but I would love to see from a perspective of a PR agency, because you are dealing with new, service industries, all sorts of shapes and sizes of businesses growing here in the Valley. I would love to understand what excites you about that.
You know what? Startups. I love startups.
Yes.
They excite me. We really have a lot of them happening here, whether people realize it or not. And I love working with startups and being on the ground floor and helping them grow and move the needle with sales and, being part of that entire team. But I also am excited about our client from 1996. Because they're constantly coming out with innovations and different things for us to talk about in all the media channels and social media and news media and everything. And they're solid. They've got a business that's been going on since the 70s. And they are very well established and they continue to grow. So I do love every client across the spectrum. But one of the most exciting things about public relations, and especially our kind of firm, we refer to ourselves as generalists. And what that means is we don't specialize in just real estate or just tech or just hospitality. We work in all those industries and we are extremely diversified. And that makes it not only a stable business. So if one industry kind of starts to tank or something, you've got all these others that you're working for. Beautiful. But what it does is it enhances my brain unbelievably because I get to learn about new industries all the time. We're constantly doing these deep dives on our new clients. And it's just amazing. Like you just never know what client's going to show up on your doorstep or need your help. And it's always a fun exploration with them. And it's really cool to get to help them create strategies and meet the objectives and be basically business partners with them.
Absolutely.
So Arizona it has some really cool technology that we've all been hearing about. And it's got, of course, real estate is massive.
Yes.
So there's a constant flux in real estate and different real estate companies that we work with. We get a lot of real estate companies coming in from other markets and, deciding to buy up some land and create a multifamily housing project. So that's really kind of fun and fascinating to assist some of these companies that are breaking into the Arizona market and investing here because they believe in Arizona.
Yes.
And they see what a cool place it is. And you know what? It's a very easy place to live.
Yeah, I think
as well. It really is. I mean, we don't get that kind of traffic congestion that, California or other places might experience. And, there's plenty of parking. We have lots of land. Things are spread out. And of course, that means we're in our cars a bit. But, it's just easy to live here.
With the technology of how self-driving cars are,
my God,
it's getting easier you can work in your car while not driving.
I just love that. That's like amazing to me because
Britt is like this close. She's like, she's like, if someone could drive me around, if I could have a driver, and I was like, you do. This is like these driverless cars.
It's called Waymo.
Exactly.
You have a driver. You have a car and driver.
And she's been using it a lot more. And so our son calls it the robo car. Like she calls it the robot car. So she every time she uses it, it's like, mommy's gonna go into the robot car. And he loves it.
It's super cool to be able to work, especially if you're traveling, 20 or 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
If you have a really short place to go for 10 minutes, then you don't have to worry about it so much. But that's a beautiful gift of these driverless cars, is the ability to let us, just continue to do what we're doing.
Yep. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the other business and how that came into your life, into your world. Has buying and selling I imagine it's always been a part of your life, but it's like, what about the products that you do? What significance do they have a role in your life?
So we are very much a part of the sustainability model because we everything we have there is resale.
Yes.
It's previously owned. People bring it in, they consign it, they get, 50%. It's a 50-50 split. But what it's doing is it's keeping those clothing articles and bags and everything in a virtuous cycle.
I love that.
So they're not getting dumped. They're not giving, they have new life at a store like ours. And, people love it because they can come in and buy designer stuff for so much less than retail.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of stuff that are new with tags that we get.
Nice.
People change their minds or it's not the size that fits them anymore, whatever it is.
And the return policy is what it is.
Yes, it is. And so they bring them in and then, somebody's going to come and love that thing and take it home. And you know what? If they get bored with it, they'll bring it back and consign it, again. So it's this virtuous cycle. And, it's a beautiful thing to see that, we can be part of sustainability in the sense that we're constantly recycling things for, all the fashion things. Anything a woman would want basically is there. And it's so cool. It's exciting to see what comes in the door because different things come in the door every day. Like we never know what someone's going to bring us. It could be a really cool Chanel bag, a vintage Chanel bag, or, it could just be anything in the scope of things that women love.
I love that because again, I look at your career as a whole, and as someone looking from the outside in, every bit of what you've done through every single business that you've provided is just a level of care and appreciation from your clients to the products. It is something that you have a attachment of I love this and I want to share it with the world and I want someone to really love it in the long term. And so I feel you and I appreciate what you've given to our community here. So I definitely have another question as far as your entrepreneurial side and just the give back side, the charity side. And then just overall, there's one that in our write up with you, there was something that came across that I was like, the heart ball. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that?
Absolutely. I'd love to. So the heart ball benefits the American Heart Association.
Yes.
And the money we raise here ends up being funded for meritorious research grants at universities and places like that are doing, let's face it, heart disease is the number one killer of men and women.
Yes.
Still is. So it's an unbelievable thing. So, but the heart ball is interesting because it is an octopus with many tentacles. My committee, I had 125 people on my committee when I chaired it. I chaired the 50th anniversary of the Phoenix Heart Ball back in 2009. And it's a machine. I mean, I treat those things like a business because we're basically running a business. If we're raising millions of dollars for heart disease, that's a business, even though it's a charitable organization. You got to look at it like a business and run it like a business. I was very big on delegating because it's a massive undertaking. There's all kinds of events that happen throughout the year leading up to the actual golf tournament. We have a mid-year meeting. We have the invitation stuffing. We have ancillary events that people are holding to raise the money for, the fight against heart disease. So, I treated it like I treat my businesses. I bring on people that are probably smarter than me and more capable than me. And then I just delegate and I say, you're going to go run with it. You're empowered to make these decisions. We know what the mission is. We're all on the same page with what the mission is. But you know what? I had the smartest gals on my committee, capable, talented fundraisers, smart, hardworking. And some of them were big check writers too, which is, of course, amazing because we're trying to raise that money to combat heart disease. So it was definitely one of the highlights of my life, getting to chair that ball.
Wonderful.
I loved it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. As you progress along in these kind of charity events, is there something that is on your bucket list, maybe something that you want to take the reins on maybe once or twice?
So many years ago, my family, the McCrae family, which included my sister, my brother, our spouses, grandkids, all that sort of stuff, we chaired the Symphony Ball. And it was on New Year's Eve at the time. It was on, and the orchestra played, and it was really cool. Well, the Symphony Ball has kind of fallen into disrepair, if I could say that. And so they have approached my husband and me and asked us to chair the Symphony Ball again.
Wonderful.
And so we're considering it very seriously because we love the Phoenix Symphony. We believe that Phoenix should have a symphony. It's a big enough city. So, that means, we got to raise money to assist the symphony because, the symphony players are not paid much at all. Yeah. And it's, it relies heavily on donors. So we are contemplating whether we're going to chair the Symphony Ball again and, try to really bring it back to its heyday where we are getting, 800 people, 1,000 people at the ball. And we're hopeful that, yes, we can actually do that. And again, if we say yes, we haven't yet, we would bring on a team of people that are smarter than us. And
I love that. It's really, again, so just from a kind of about me, I'm very much with this podcast. I have met a lot of nonprofits and just overall great, wonderful, sacrificing people, like just really beautiful in their stories and what they've offer as far as their nonprofit organization. And it almost brings me to tears every time because, again, as someone who's a part of this community, wants to see it grow, wants to continue it forward. I think one of the greatest things that I grew up with was music, was just overall music and art. And I think that's something that has affected my life on a grand scale. And I'm slowly starting to see my own little one to start, he loves he's got a guitar, he's got a little drum, he's got, all of these shakers and music makers that I want for him to have that opportunity. Because when I was in school, I had a guitar teacher that really was passionate about teaching students, especially so I grew up on the reservation up north, the Hopi Reservation. And his motto is like, if I can affect one musician's life on a small scale of this reservation, I've lived my life for the better. And he's given me an opportunity to like experienced so many things. So with him, I got to go to the Grand Canyon Music Festival and be a part of writing music and having it played by a string quartet. And so I would have never had that opportunity if he didn't care that much. And so my whole thing is like arts overall, especially music, gives us the whimsy and the beauty of looking through or listening through a different perspective. And so if we can continue that forward and invest in it on a grander scale in not only what you do with the symphony, but the schools, the educational side, we can really give certain students, certain people who have a passion for it, an opportunity to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because for some, music is what they're made for, what they really are intended for in this life. And when you close down those doors and you shut those opportunities, you lose an individual and their opportunity to grow.
And we know the schools have cut so many arts programs.
Yes.
So I believe it's incumbent upon the rest of us to find a way to fill that void.
Yeah.
And make sure that students are being exposed to all kinds of arts and get that chance to flourish in there. And I mean, it breaks my heart that all that's been cut from the schools.
Yeah. I sit in this room that my wife has dedicated to Monet. There's like, they're not real pictures, but they're printouts of Monet's. And this room that I'm standing in is not behind me right now, but it's on the walls all around me. But it's, again, that art to her spoke to her and her life just as much as music has spoken to me in my life. So we try and fill our home with those different arts that we develop or that we appreciate, and also what we've developed on our end with the podcast. So you brought up the idea of this being a small town. My son now knows what podcasts are, and what we do is interview with the businesses. So when we're driving around and we're going grocery shopping or we're going to school, he looks at businesses and he points, Dada, did you do that? Did you do podcasts with that one? Did you do that? Did you do podcasts with that person? Or like, what's one that you did, Dada? And I don't know how to say it. Like, we've had conversations where we like 10-minute conversations, like Dad did that one. Dad had a discussion with that one. We're going to go do that one. And so he smiles so big because he knows that we're a community member. We're part of this community, and we share those stories. So I see this becoming a legacy piece for him because he's shown so much interest in it. So I definitely feel what you brought up to the table was like this being a big city, but a small town overall, a small world. And so as we've gone through the episodes, it's really fun to be like, well, Mommy and Daddy met this person through the podcast and they do this. And so for him, it's just like, oh, these are all my Mommy and Daddy's friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's so great. Maybe he will be having his own podcast soon.
He's talked to me about it. He's like, can I do one with you? I'm like, yeah, sure. We can find something for us to talk about and do together. So it's in the development. His attention span will get about the max, I would say, like 15 to 20 minutes. So maybe we'll do like small chunks in like 10-minute episodes.
I love that idea. I love that idea so much.
We just heard one. So he has this little music player, and in the music player, it does like a little it has a podcast that you can like search on your phone and like Bluetooth it to them. And one of them that my wife found was basically those little segments on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Sesame Street where they interview the person or the farmer or the business, and this podcast case, understanding cultures. So they'll go and meet someone whose culture is different than theirs, and they'll ask them questions about what they eat, what they do, what they celebrate, those types of things, so that the children who listen to this podcast understand that we're different, but we're also doing it differently for the sake of like, this is what our people believe in. This is what our culture celebrates. So it's very unique, very interesting. And he's it piqued his interest. He was listening to it for a while.
I love that.
Yes.
Speaking of young people and legacy stuff, I actually have my niece and my nephew work at High Society Resale.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like on Christmas break, they were there working every day. My niece is now back here, and she's 18. She's taking college courses here. But what's amazing is seeing how she can do everything that you need to do in a business like that. And in fact, I've assigned her to train a new employee.
Awesome.
So that's like, that kind of stuff is going to be so great on her resume, that she helped train employees and she was working the register and she was figuring out how to price items and, what all the things you need to do to run a business like that. So my husband and I don't have children, but my niece and nephew are definitely part of the team and
adopted
children. And I'm just trying to help them grow by learning new skills, how to talk to people, how to show customer service, how to answer the phone and take the questions and figure things out if there's, something that needs a solution. And this is all, I think, so good for them because, they, especially since the pandemic, right? Like kids didn't get to have the level of interaction face to face with people that they did pre-pandemic. So I feel like
stunted the growth and
stunted the growth. That. It sure did because they were doing everything online. So I'm a big fan of getting them out there, meeting people, working with different personality types with the rest of the team, working with happy customers, working with maybe unhappy customers and how to find solutions if things arise. I think that's just going to make them so much more well-rounded. I feel like a lot of the younger generations, they don't want to pick up the phone. They don't
that's
really
a scary thing to them.
It's a scary thing to them. They don't want to talk on the phone. And if they can avoid it, they will avoid it.
Yep.
So my team and I are really helping them learn life skills, learn how a business works and runs, learn how to get stuff done and make it happen. Yes. And if you don't find an answer over here, you look over here and you look over there and you figure it out. You figure it out.
So one of the things that you brought in and just kind of piqued my interest was development and just kind of overall, you've developed your own skills and just the fact that like you were an early adopter into that social media generation. And one of the things that I read about you is like you enjoy your Saturdays by having a cup of coffee and reading interesting news. So one of the things that interests me right now is the TikTok and just what it's going through with the band. So overall development and what that technology brings from not only the business owner side, but also what you generate as PR and what you generate as social media and your content in there. What about that story and what they are doing and what's going on with them piques your interest in how you go about your work, not only with your one business being PR, but the other business being what it is? I imagine your nieces and nephews are, like a TikTok is a big part of their life as well.
Yes, that's right. So one of the things from the PR firm perspective that I've learned is how to pivot. So anytime a new platform comes available, and TikTok being one of the ones that's a little bit newer over the past few years, it's incumbent upon us to learn that platform, to be, conversant in it and how to use it and how to use it for our clients. So we're constantly learning whatever those new technologies are and, platforms, obviously we have TikTok for a little bit longer, 75 days, according to what they did to struck a deal with Donald Trump. We'll see. I mean, I would be shocked if we lose TikTok in this country. I just really don't think it's going to happen. I agree. I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to work it out because I think too many people would just raise holy heck over losing their TikTok. My husband would be one of them because he loves TikTok for recipes and, tips and tricks on things that you can use. He's not looking at dance videos of teenagers, which is
I think
That was the early days of TikTok.
Yeah,
right?
I think overall, like, as you see the amount of people who have used it for their own kind of personal, collection of ideas or just overall deliverables of content, and you can kind of see the different kind of users on how they use it and how they're being useful on it. So it's definitely something that why I agree with you, because there are so many different genres of people who are using it on different scales and different ways for themselves.
Yeah. Think about all the people that are running businesses on TikTok.
Yes, that's a big element of it.
Honestly, there are people that are just making tons of money or whatever money from whether it's being an influencer or, selling something on TikTok through their sales function. And
so the small businesses who have a very pivotal story that happened to them, and just to be able to generate a small video that has allowed them to pick up more clientele because the algorithm has pushed them forward into the eyes of those who probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah. So we know what is going to happen to all those businesses if they shut TikTok down. I mean, I guess they'll go to YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels and things like that, but it's still not the same as TikTok.
It's still I talk about this because I've listened to other podcasters talk, who are in the industry, where it's like this, there is this level of the algorithm development for those other platforms isn't where it's at with TikTok, because it has so many users generating and it's getting the data collected, then it's developing. So when you have you're starting back from zero essentially.
Exactly.
So thank you. No, really, because you are someone who's, again, been an early adopter in these kind of markets and in these kind of communities. I wanted to just hear from you, from your perspective, just being where you're at right now, because you have these two level of businesses that kind of come together in this realm of social media, that you have a unique perspective on this and a unique view of of what's happening. So that was just something that piqued my interest. We're kind of reaching the end of our conversation. And what I'd like to ask towards the end of our podcast is really about goals, whether it's just from your PR and what the goals are generally all the time, or if there's one big goal that you're trying to shoot for, so that our listeners can maybe, someone that's listening could help you out, or just kind of generate an opportunity for you to kind of put out into the universe, and they will hear and answer back.
Well, we're always looking for interesting clients for the PR firm, and not just interesting, but people that understand enough of PR that they see the value in it.
Yes.
Versus somebody that we just have to completely educate from scratch as to why public relations is going to move the needle for them and provide ROI. So it's always helpful if they just have a little bit of a working knowledge of it. So then we can say, okay, let's have a strategic planning session. Let's put a PR plan together with a roadmap. Let's, brainstorm tactics and all the different things that go along with it. And I always love seeing a company grow. And that's what we do, is we help companies grow. We help them sell whatever it is they're selling. Yes. And, at the boutique, we're selling merchandise. So it's service-based, product-based. Yep. So we are always, continuing to grow and increase our sales figures. I would encourage any woman who might be listening to go visit High Society Resale Boutique, because it is the most awesome treasure hunt. And everything's super organized there. So you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm walking into a warehouse full of just stuff and I just have to kind of go through it and hope for the best. Yeah. We have everything super organized and it's really easy to find. You want a black turtleneck, the black turtleneck section's over here, what have you. So they're two very different businesses. However, in the realm of social media, as you just mentioned, both entities need the social media. In the case of public relations, we're promoting thought leadership a lot of the times. We're positioning people as experts in their field. We're submitting them for awards. We are getting them speaking engagements. We're, doing all that kind of stuff that is going to speak to their credibility and their expertise and make them trusted. It's know, like, trust. That's what we do. Of course, on the merchandise side, it's more about showing eye candy, sending out newsletters with all these, great designer bags and shoes and all that kind of stuff, putting up
newcomers,
posts, putting up posts showing here's the new merchandise that just landed. And then we'll put outfits together to show them how the outfits come together. So both businesses rely on social media, absolutely, but in very, very different ways.
Yes. Thank you again, Beth, for really distilling a lot of what you do in a very enjoyable conversation. Because again, you could get in the weeds with a lot of this stuff, but I feel like the best conversations, you just have fun. And I had fun today. I hope you had fun too.
Exactly. And business should be fun. We should love what we're doing. And I love both of these businesses so much. And if I had one message to give everybody who's listening is delegate. Find those super smart, talented people, smarter than you, if you can, and then delegate. And that's going to make your life so much easier.
Beautiful.
It really is, because then you're not just in the weeds, as you said, in your own business. You can work on the business rather than just in the business.
Beautiful.
The people that you delegate to are working in the business. And that allows you to have this higher level view of opportunity and work on your business and those goals and those strategies and objectives and everything to get you where you need to go. That's my biggest piece of advice.
I love it. Thank you for leaving that bit of piece of advice. Our end conversation, or our end outro, is letting you take the reins and just promote for both businesses. The floor is yours. Let them know where they can find you social media wise, a website, a phone number, physical address for the boutique. And the floor is yours, Beth. Go right ahead.
Well, thank you. That's really kind. So for the McRae Agency, I have a physical office and it's attached to the boutique.
Nice.
So I can go in there and work, and I can pop into the boutique if they need me for something. It's just perfect.
Yes.
And that's in Scottsdale. And the address of the boutique is 10805 North 71st Way. It's behind Handlebar J's. For those of you that know where Handlebar J's is.
Yes.
It's in a pink building. It's the only pink building for miles around, so you just kind of can't miss it.
Yeah.
And we're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5. People can make appointments to come in and consign things. Obviously, if you want to shop, you come in anytime. The merchandise changes every day, as I mentioned, because people are always coming in and consigning and bringing new things in. So it's fresh every day.
Beautiful.
On the PR side, our website is McRaeAgency.com, which is McRaeAgency.com. And if you go to the site, you can see case studies, you can see client testimonials, you can see a list of all of our client experience from Google and Red Bull down to the startups I mentioned. We've worked with some really massive corporations, and then we also work with a lot of small and medium companies. And bios on our team are there. Contact information is there. And, I invite anybody to reach out to me directly if they have any kind of questions or thoughts or ideas. And my email address is beth@mccraeagency.com. So BETH@MCRAEAGENCY.com. And
awesome.
shoot me an email, even if it's about the boutique and you have a question about that, how to consign, whatever, or if it's a question about public relations, social media, marketing. I welcome all to contact me.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Again, we have my wife, who is our connection point, and she has given me a lot of insight about how wonderful you are. And just to be able to see it and hear it in person, I have no doubt that both businesses will thrive for a lot longer with you at the with you at the reins. Sorry. And then we will end our conversation with our little outro that we have. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. We make it easy for you to connect with us through social media, Finding Arizona Podcast under everything. And last but not least, we always end every conversation with the kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time.
Yay.